I never thought I'd be sitting here at 61 years old, dealing with the kind of petty family drama that belongs in a high school cafeteria. But here we are. My younger brother decided to announce to our entire extended family that I'm broke, living paycheck to paycheck, and frankly, an embarrassment to the family name. The kicker? I'm the CEO of a successful medical device company with a personal net worth that would make his eyes water. Let me explain how we got here. My name is Richard, and I've spent the last 35 years building my career from the ground up. I started as an engineer, worked my way through management, and eventually founded my own company specializing in surgical equipment. We've done well. More than well, actually. We employ over 400 people, and our devices are used in hospitals across the country. But you wouldn't know any of that from looking at me or my lifestyle. I drive a 7-year-old Honda Accord. I live in a modest 3-bedroom house in a middle-class neighborhood that I bought 20 years ago. I wear affordable clothes from department stores, and my idea of a fancy dinner is the local Italian place where you can get chicken parmesan for $18. I'm not cheap, I'm just practical. I grew up without much, and I never saw the point in flashy displays of wealth. My money goes into investments, my employees' benefits, my retirement accounts, and quiet charitable donations. That's just who I am. My brother Marcus is the complete opposite. He's 57, works in middle management at a corporate firm, and lives like he's auditioning for a reality show about millionaires. Leased luxury cars, designer everything, a house that's mortgaged to the hilt in an exclusive neighborhood. He loves to be the center of attention, loves to brag, loves to make sure everyone knows he's doing well. We've always been different, but we got along fine for most of our lives. The tension really started about 5 years ago. Our parents passed away within 2 years of each other, Dad first, then Mom. It was hard on everyone. Marcus thought that with the inheritance and life insurance, I'd finally upgrade my lifestyle. He kept making comments about how I could finally get a decent car or move to a better neighborhood. When I didn't, he started making little digs. Jokes about my frugality. Comments about how I was wasting my life pinching pennies. I mostly ignored it because honestly, I didn't care what he thought about my choices. The real problem was that Marcus had no idea what I actually did for work. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. When I first started my company, it was just me and 2 other people working out of a rented office space. I was working 100 hours a week, stressed out of my mind, and I didn't talk about it much with family. I've always been private about my professional life. As the company grew, I kept that same habit. When family asked how work was going, I'd say fine and change the subject. I never corrected anyone's assumptions. Somewhere along the way, Marcus got it in his head that I was still just an engineer at some small medical supply company. I think someone must have mentioned I worked with medical equipment, and he just filled in the blanks wrong. He never asked directly, and I never volunteered the information. Why would I? I didn't need my brother's approval or admiration. My wife knew everything, of course, and that was enough for me. She passed away 3 years ago, and since then, I've been even more private about everything. Last month was my niece's wedding, Marcus's daughter Emily. Beautiful ceremony, expensive venue, the whole 9 yards. Marcus made sure everyone knew he paid for everything, that nothing but the best would do for his little girl. The whole extended family was there, about 60 people including cousins, aunts, uncles, and family friends I hadn't seen in years. During the reception, I was sitting quietly at my table, enjoying my meal and watching people dance. I'd given Emily a wedding gift, a check for $10,000 in a simple card. Generous, but not showy. That's my style. I was planning to slip out early because these big events aren't really my thing, but then Marcus clinked his glass to make a toast. He started out normal enough, talking about his daughter, how proud he was, the usual father of the bride speech. Then he transitioned into talking about family, about the values our parents instilled in us, about success and making something of yourself. I should have seen where this was going, but I didn't. Not until he turned and gestured directly at me. Now, I know we've all got different definitions of success, Marcus said, his voice carrying across the entire reception hall. Take my older brother Richard here. He's worked hard his whole life, but things just never quite worked out for him financially. Still driving that old beater car, still in that tiny house. I keep telling him I could help him get a better job through my connections, but he's too proud to accept help. The room got quiet. I felt every eye turned to me. My face went hot, but I kept my expression neutral. Marcus continued, warming to his subject. Rich has always been stubborn that way. Even now, at 61, still grinding away at some small company, probably living paycheck to paycheck. It's honestly kind of sad and embarrassing for the family. But hey, at least he showed up today, right? Probably the best meal he's had in months. There was scattered, uncomfortable laughter from people who didn't know whether he was joking or not. My nephew tried to take the microphone from Marcus, but he waved him away. I'm serious though, family should look out for each other. Richard, I want you to know that if you ever need financial help, you just have to ask. No judgment. We take care of our own, even when some of us haven't made the best choices. Maybe think about selling that house, moving somewhere more affordable, really stretch that retirement fund. If you even have one. He raised his glass. To family, and to always trying to better ourselves. I sat there frozen as people awkwardly toasted. My sister-in-law looked mortified. Emily had tears in her eyes, her special day hijacked by her father's need to put me down. Several relatives were staring at me with what looked like pity. Others were whispering to each other. I stood up, set my napkin on the table, and walked out. Not because I was angry, exactly. I was just done. Done with the event, done with being the target of Marcus's insecurities. I went home, poured myself a drink, and sat on my back porch looking at the garden my late wife had planted. I wasn't hurt by what Marcus said because I knew it wasn't true. But I was tired of his nonsense. The next morning, my phone started ringing. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all calling to check on me. Were things really that bad? Did I need help? Why hadn't I said anything? It was exhausting. I told them I was fine and left it at that. Then Emily called, crying and apologizing for her father's behavior. That made me sad. It wasn't her fault. Uncle Rich, I'm so sorry. Dad had too much to drink and he gets competitive with you, I don't know why. That was completely inappropriate and I'm mortified that he did that at my wedding. I assured her it was fine, not to worry, to enjoy her honeymoon. But after I hung up, I started thinking. Marcus had humiliated me in front of 60 people. He'd made assumptions about my life and broadcast them as facts. He'd positioned himself as superior, as charitable for tolerating his failure of an older brother. And he'd done it all without ever once actually asking me about my life. I'm not usually a petty person, but something snapped. Maybe it was years of little digs finally piling up too high. Maybe it was the public nature of his attack. Maybe I was just tired of being humble to the point of invisibility. Whatever the reason, I decided Marcus needed a reality check. I called my assistant on Monday morning. Sarah, I need you to compile some information for me. Company overview, revenue figures, my bio from the website, any recent press coverage. Put it together in a simple document, nothing fancy. And include that photo from the Chamber of Commerce Awards dinner. She didn't ask why, just said she'd have it ready by end of day. That's why she's been with me for 12 years. I also reached out to my lawyer and accountant. I wanted a clear, simple summary of my financial situation. Net worth, assets, the works. Not to brag, but to have facts. They thought I was updating my estate planning and had it ready in 2 days. The following Saturday was my nephew's birthday party at Marcus's house. He's their youngest, just turned 21. I normally would have shown up with a card and a modest check, stayed an hour, and left. This time, I had a different plan. I showed up in my Honda, wearing my usual khakis and polo shirt. Marcus answered the door with a patronizing smile. Rich. Good to see you. Glad you could make it. I hope things weren't too tight this week, I know how it gets at the end of the month. I smiled back. Things are just fine, Marcus. Actually, I brought something I wanted to share with the family. He looked confused but let me in. The living room had about 20 people, the immediate family and some close relatives. I greeted everyone, gave my nephew his card with another generous check inside, and then asked if I could have everyone's attention for just a minute. Marcus looked nervous. Good. I wanted to address something from the wedding last week, I started. Marcus made some statements about my financial situation and career that I realized came from a misunderstanding. I've always been private about my work, and I think that caused some confusion. So in the interest of family transparency, I thought I'd clear things up. I pulled out the documents Sarah had prepared. I'm not just an engineer at a medical supply company. I'm the founder and CEO of MedTech Solutions. We specialize in advanced surgical equipment and we've been in business for 23 years. We employ 412 people and our annual revenue last year was $87 million. You could hear a pin drop. Marcus's face went white. I continued, keeping my voice calm and factual. I live in my modest house because I like it. It's paid off, it's in a neighborhood I love, and my late wife and I were happy there. I don't need a bigger one. I drive my Honda because it's reliable and efficient. I don't need a luxury car. These are choices, not limitations. I handed the documents to my sister-in-law, who was closest to me. My personal net worth is approximately $12 million. I'm not broke, not living paycheck to paycheck, and not in need of anyone's charity or connections. I live the way I do because it makes me happy and because I prefer to invest in experiences, people, and causes rather than things. Marcus tried to speak but nothing came out. Other family members were passing around the papers, looking at the company website on their phones, seeing photos of me at industry conferences and award ceremonies. Marcus, I'm not telling everyone this to embarrass you, I said, looking directly at my brother. I'm telling everyone this because you embarrassed me publicly based on assumptions you never bothered to verify. You decided I was a failure because I don't live the way you think successful people should live. You made that announcement to 60 people at your daughter's wedding without ever once asking me about my actual circumstances. My nephew, the birthday boy, was staring at his father with an expression I couldn't quite read. My sister-in-law looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I don't need to flash my wealth because I'm secure in who I am, I continued. I worked hard, I built something meaningful, and I live according to my values. Those values include humility, privacy, and not judging others based on superficial measures. Maybe you should consider adopting some of them. I picked up my keys. I think I'll head out now. Happy birthday, Jason. Enjoy the rest of your party, everyone. The silence as I walked to the door was deafening. I was almost to my car when Marcus came running out. Rich, wait. I didn't know. You never said anything. How was I supposed to know? I turned to face him. You could have asked, Marcus. At any point in the last 23 years, you could have asked me about my work, my life, my choices. But you didn't ask because you weren't interested in the truth. You were interested in feeling superior. You've spent years making little comments about my car, my house, my lifestyle. You built an entire narrative about my failure to make yourself feel successful. I didn't mean to, you absolutely meant to, I interrupted. You meant every word you said at Emily's wedding. You wanted everyone to see you as the successful brother, the one who made it, the one generous enough to tolerate his poor relative. Well, congratulations. Now everyone knows the truth. He just stood there, opening and closing his mouth like a fish. I got in my Honda and drove home. The fallout was immediate and extensive. Emily called to apologize again and to laugh, actually laugh, at how her father must have felt. My sister-in-law sent a long text about how Marcus had been impossible to live with since the party, how this had been a wake-up call for a lot of issues in their marriage. Other family members reached out with reactions ranging from amused to shocked to supportive. Marcus himself didn't contact me for 3 weeks. When he finally did, it was a short email asking if we could talk in person. I agreed, and we met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. He looked terrible. Tired, older somehow. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he started. And talking to a therapist, actually. My wife insisted. I sipped my coffee and waited. I was jealous of you, he admitted. I know that sounds crazy given what I said at the wedding, but it's true. You've always been smarter than me, more focused. I went into corporate work because it seemed safe and prestigious. You took risks and built something. I think I convinced myself you must have failed because otherwise, I'd have to face the fact that I was too scared to try what you did. He looked down at his cup. When you didn't change anything after Mom and Dad died, when you kept driving that same car and living in that same house, I told myself it was because you couldn't afford better. It made me feel better about my choices. About the debt I've taken on to look successful. I'm leveraged to the hilt, rich. The house, the cars, Emily's wedding nearly broke us. And here you are, actually wealthy, living like a normal person because you don't need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just listened. I'm sorry, he said. I'm genuinely, deeply sorry. For the wedding, for years of snide comments, for never bothering to actually know you or your life. You deserved better from your brother. I believed him. I could see the regret was real. I accept your apology, I said finally. But Marcus, you need to sort out your relationship with money and status. Not for me, for yourself and your family. This need to appear wealthy is clearly eating you alive. He nodded. I know. We're working on it. Talking about downsizing, getting out of debt, living within our actual means. It's terrifying but also kind of a relief to stop pretending. We talked for another hour. Really talked, maybe for the first time in decades. About our parents, our choices, our regrets. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. That was 3 months ago. Marcus and his wife sold their house and moved to a smaller place in a less expensive neighborhood. He traded in the leased luxury car for a sensible used sedan. They're in financial counseling and apparently doing better. Emily told me her parents seem happier than they've been in years, less stressed, more present. Marcus and I meet for coffee every couple of weeks now. We're rebuilding something that I didn't even realize was broken. He asks about my work now, actually listens, shows genuine interest. I've learned more about his job and life too. Turns out we have more in common than I thought. As for me, I'm still driving my Honda, still in my same house, still living according to my values. The difference is that now my family knows who I actually am rather than who they assumed I was. And honestly, that feels pretty good. The whole situation taught me that sometimes humility can go too far. There's a difference between not bragging and allowing people to create false narratives about your life. I don't regret my private nature, but I should have corrected Marcus's assumptions years ago instead of letting them fester into something ugly. I also learned that people's judgments of others often say more about their own insecurities than about reality. Marcus wasn't really judging me. He was judging himself and projecting it outward. Once he faced his own issues, our relationship could actually heal. Would I do anything differently? Maybe I would have had an honest conversation with Marcus earlier, before things got to the wedding incident. But I don't regret standing up for myself when I did. Sometimes family needs to hear hard truths, even if it's uncomfortable for everyone involved. I'm 61 years old, successful by any measure, and finally at peace with both my choices and my family's understanding of them. And that's worth more than any luxury car or mansion could ever be.